Greetings everyone, my name is Balasa Fusimukwe.
I am Charmaine Lubisi. I'm Radumane Dimbo.
I am Juana Larasa.
And today we are gathered here to have a discussion based on our research proposal. So the topic for our research is improving learners' conceptual understanding in algebraic expressions and equations in the grade 10 mathematics class. So Dimpo will be the facilitator. She will be the one who's facilitating the whole discussions as to where we're gonna go.
Okay, I think one major reason why learners struggles with algebraic expression is that they don't have a strong foundation from lower grades like grade 8 and 9, right? Yes. So now they learn basic operations with numbers and simple expression, and it makes them to not understand the concept fully. That's why it causes it becomes more work when they get to grade 10. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is so true because I feel like also one thing that it may cause them to have a struggle in understanding these concepts. It may be because algebraic mostly it deals with letters. So to them, when they come across a letter X and Y, to them it may come as like a random thing. They don't understand. They can't put their letters into the equations, so they don't know how to maneuver around that. So I feel like that might be one of the core problems as to why they are lacking the understanding. You understand? Yeah.
And another thing is that learners want to memorize the concepts instead of understanding them, which gives them a lot of trouble during exams because the questions that we do in class are different from exam questions. So they are not able to perform very well during exams or during assessments, and they lack a lot of conceptual understanding because of wanting to memorize the concepts. So I think learners should work on understanding the concepts instead of memorizing them, so they can perform better during class and during assessments or exams.
That is so true. That is also true.
That's very true. Okay, and what I think also that affects the understanding of learners is the speed in which teachers teach. Teachers teach learners in a way they think they would understand, meaning they teach learners in a rapid manner, meaning learners take time to understand because teachers are focused on finishing the syllabus
instead.
Yes, they are more concerned on sticking to the schedule, and they don't consider learners understanding. They don't make learners understand fully. They just focus on finishing the syllabus and sticking to the schedule, which makes learners not to understand their speed, and everything that they do in class makes learners understand.
Well, that is so true because even the time I was doing my practicals, was it last semester? It was a thing of we were given a certain time. Obviously, we as teachers, we have like a certain period that we have to teach, and you understand. So you'll find that I created a lesson plan and I have to conduct that class based on that lesson plan. But because of the duration, I have to make sure that I conclude everything that's within the lesson plan with the given small time, of which the students, they don't get to grasp all of that because of the duration. So I will have to do it to increase my pace so that I can walk within the given period. So
I also think that language plays a big role, like language barrier. Most learners are used to taught up to their mother's tongue, especially for mathematics. We're taught mathematics using our own language, Siswati, for example. So when they come to grade 10, 11, let's take this, a new teacher who has a different language, like he is teaching mathematics in English, and then uses the word maybe factorize. Learners most of the time they
don't understand what the word
factorize means. So they're used in teaching mathematics according to their own language. That's why it's becoming more difficult if they use English to teach mathematics.
So do you think they should be, do you think that the system should they should bring a system of a student must learn mathematics based on their mother tongue, or it should be a thing that from the foundation students should be taught math using English, so that when they get to the higher grades they can learn, they can understand mathematics in English, because obviously English is like how do they call this? It's everywhere. You understand? It's a universal language, and it is a language that most of the people we use it to communicate. So I want to understand that, does the system should they bring the thing of learners should be taught using their own languages, or
No, I think that they should continue to English.
Personally, I think that learners will excel in maths if they were taught in their mother language, because it's easier to understand.
obviously, because most of the time
I think
They will
they
face
performance
more
will-
like most challenges when they come to university. Like in university, you
Even
find that with their
even
different
on
tribes.
that same grade, because most of the time you find that the teacher is a Zimbabwean, Nigerian, so they have to teach them using
English.
And
That is so true.
some of the mathematical terms that we have in English, they are not there
In their
Yeah.
mother tongue
So
language.
how are they going to understand if they don't understand those words in English? Even if we try to bring it in the mother tongue, they are not there. So which means we have to use the very same words that
The
they
same
use.
words that, yeah, that's true.
So it's not very productive.
That is so true. But I think that, like, okay, it is correct to teach learners using English, no? But I think as a teacher, you should be versatile enough for when, like, a learner needs help. Like, you should be able to explain to them in their mother language. You see, like maybe they come to you and they say, I don't understand how to factorize. Can you please explain me in a way that I can you please explain it to me in a way that I can understand? And then maybe I think you can use their mother language to explain the concepts to them. Because sometimes it's hard for them to understand English. So as a teacher, you should know a lot of languages, Siswati, Sepedi, Sisuthu, to be versatile as a teacher. No English, yeah.
Okay, now that we've talked about the causes, let's discuss the effects. What happens when learners don't understand like algebra properly?
Obviously, if the learners, they don't understand the concepts of algebra, it's going to result to what? To poor performance when it comes to the test, examination, or any assessment that they are given. You understand? Because if a learner can't understand a certain thing that is being taught in class, it's going to be difficult for them to go home and try to understand it on their own. So when it's that time of writing the examination or the test, it becomes difficult. They tend to perform very, very low when it comes to that. So I feel like it has a negative effect on that. Yeah.
One of the negative effects, I think that they lose confidence in themselves. Like when they're going to write a test, they become so nervous that they forget the concept that they've learned due to memorization. This is why we say that they shouldn't memorize the concept. They should
Understand,
know and understand the concepts. So yeah.
They should meaningfully learn it.
Yeah.
They should learn it with meaning, to actually understand it, not to memorize it and then the following day they forget about
Yeah,
it.
they forget about
You
it.
understand?
And like
Also,
when they
I feel like poor understanding of algebra leads to poor understanding in other topics. As
Yeah.
algebra is like the basic, the foundation of mathematics. Like most topic, trigonometry, analytical geometry, you find that there's algebra in there. So if like they don't understand algebra, the basics of algebra, it's going to affect other topic as well.
Yeah, that's
So
so.
I think-
And obviously, I feel like even if I'm gonna take it back to their low performance. Obviously, as a student or as a learner, if you can see that I'm struggling with this thing, and every time when I'm writing a test, I'm failing. That thing is gonna bring what? A lack of confidence and a lack of what? Motivation.
Which means you will no longer participate.
You will no longer
You will
participate.
no longer feel
You will never have
interested.
exactly. You won't have that interest.
You will not
You will
want to-
disengage
You will not want anything that has to do
with the math. Exactly.
Lose interest in the subject.
So we need to find a way on how we can improve that. You understand? Because this is a problem on its own. We need to find a way on how we can help the students to enhance that, to uplift their confidence or their motivation.
I think another thing that in a way that affects learners, it's not only about the maths, it's about their problem solving skills, their
critical thinking
also, meaning that they will no longer have strategic thinking in their mind. They will no longer have the ability to solve problems on their own, because in mathematics they failed to solve the problems, meaning that they cannot apply the mathematical concept
to
the real world and not participate in anything that has to do with problem solving, because they did not have the interest, or they were disengaged when they had the time to solve problems in class.
Well, true. Okay, so now that we have touched on the background of this, and as we know that we will be doing a action research, so we will have to focus on the aim. So what is the aim of our discussion or our study? What can we say the aim of our study is?
Well, the aim of the study is to help students to move from mere memorization to them understanding the conceptual understanding of algebra, which will allow them to apply these concepts in real life.
Okay.
Okay, then what could be our objectives?
Well, the objective will be, to check learners whether they do not rely on or depend on mere memorization.
Okay, now what could be our objectives?
Well, one of the objectives could be that to assess learners' reliance on word memorization instead of genuine understanding of algebra. I think that could be one of them.
And also, I think it can be to examine the relationship between memorization and understanding of algebraic concepts.
And we can also add to develop and test teaching approaches that promote deeper understanding of algebraic. Next question.
One of the objectives is to explore how prior mathematics knowledge can influence learners to shift from memorizing the concept to understanding the concept.
That's true.
Now I think it could be recommending teachers and policymakers to support students developing an understanding on algebra.
To grasp it.
Okay. So now we will move to another part of our research, which is theoretical framework. I feel so basically we need to understand what theoretical framework is. So now the theoretical framework is the foundation of the study, is the theories upon which this research that we're about to write is based on. So I think we could look at different theories that we could use, rely on certain sources, and we might include them in our research.
Okay, that's true.
So since I have explained the theoretical framework, what do you think the theories we can include in your research? Since I have explained what theoretical framework is, which article or theories we can use to support our research?
Now in the article I found by Marshall 2022, the researcher used contextual teaching method to make algebra to understand easy. Learners performed better when lesson included real-life examples like calculating prices or distance.
Okay, we can also include cooperative learning as part of interactive methods, because according to article Gillis 2022, it says group work helps learners share ideas and understanding, build understanding,
collaboration.
And also collaboration builds an environment for inclusive, like it builds an inclusive environment so that it can accommodate all learners. Yeah.
And we can also, according to the researcher Johnson and Johnson in 2020 article, he also emphasized that the cooperative learning improves both academic performances and social interaction in mathematics. It brings us back to the one that Dimpo spoke about, you see. So I feel like we could also include it, since it focuses on collaboration instead of competition within the learners. Yeah.
And I find it that when learners work together and they help each other during mathematics time or mathematics classes, they perform better, like, because they are able to understand each other on a better level. You know? So when they explain concepts to each other, like the other learner find it easy to understand that certain thing. So collaborative learning is very good, very good.
And it will also help them in the real life problem solving. You understand? They'll be able to solve the problems within the afterlife, after the afterlife, actually, after the high school or the city life. You understand? Yeah. So I feel like this is just a preparation for them to the afterlife.
Okay. And also coming back to contextual teaching, the point of Charmaine, it means I believe that if we use contextual teaching, meaning we use the mathematics to solve real life problems, it will help learners to understand the concept better. So which means the theory that Charmaine stated can also be used. We can also include it in our research.
In our research, okay. That can still work. That can still work. So now that we have concluded how we're gonna go about the theoretical work, I think it's best to go to check how are we gonna collect the data. You understand? To make our research to be tangible. So how are we gonna go about it?
So we can use the method of quantitative data. The quantitative method. So that method, it means that we are using numbers, meaning we are going to look at the pre-test and the post-test that we are going to give learners. We are going to give learners before we start the test, before we start the research. And also we're going to give learners a test after the research, so that we can see whether they have improved their performance or it remained neutral or it has lowered. And using that method, we can assess whether the learners understood and understood the conceptual terms for algebra. And also in quantitative data, we can also observe their participation, how they are participating in the class. If they ever, when we ask questions, they are answering, or whether they seem like they are interested in the lesson. We can use that. That's the other method that I know we can use.
Okay. So do we all agree that that's something that we can do? I mean, yes, it focuses on the data collection, the quantitative and the qualitative of it. Awesome.
Okay. Another method we can use is qualitative data analysis. We use data qualitative analysis to examine the data and interpret it. So we can use qualitative data analysis to collect information through interviews, observation, questionnaire, and the learners. Interviews will be conducted between the learner and the teacher, so that they can understand how well learners are adapting to the concepts of algebra. Questionnaires will be used to collect information like on tests, assessments on how well they performed on algebra.
Okay, so let's move on to solutions now. What can teachers or schools do to help learners understand algebra better?
Okay. Well, for me, I think that teachers can use more practical and visual examples. The reason why I'm saying this is because it's easier for a learner to grab something, to understand something, when they can see how it's being done practically. You understand? So I feel like that's one solution that they can also use. For instance, the diagrams. If they could use like a flow diagrams or a chart diagrams, understand, and the number lines. We all know that at primary we used to be taught using the number lines, and I believe that most of us, that method, it helped us to understand the concept of mathematics within that level. You see, so if they could use that number lines right now to elaborate or to explain or to teach more about the algebraic expressions. You see, so yeah.
I also think that teachers should encourage learners to work in groups or collaborate with each other. As we said before, that learners work better when they help each other during lessons or when they explain ideas to each other.
Yeah.
This help like the learners that are shy to ask questions, to ask teachers questions.
Yeah.
Like they can be able to ask their peers questions instead of asking the teacher. Yes.
Now, I think another solution is to focus more on conceptual understanding instead of memorizing. Like to focus more on conceptual understanding. Like when you explain a certain topic, let's say you're explaining that when you are, let's say you're given an equation, x minus 2 is equals to 0. Then when you say x is equals to negative 2, you must explain to them why is it now negative 2. You must teach them that when numbers are exported, like you take from one side to another, or it changes the equation, like it changes the sign. When it's done the equation, the sign also changes. Like teachers must focus on conceptual understanding, making them understand, like if you can say what happens on the left hand side happens on the right hand side in mathematics, in algebra. Teachers should make learners understand certain, like learners understand some certain rules. I think that
I think another solution that teachers can use is the use of technology. You know, they might use, the YouTube. Many platforms are there that can help teachers to learn how to use different methods in class. Those and they also can create, the links for YouTube. They send them to learners in order for them to have more information on how to solve certain issues, have more solutions on how to tackle many problems. And they can also create WhatsApp groups. Those WhatsApp groups will create a platform for teachers to teach learners even when they are at home, meaning that they will have a lot of time to teach each other more than they are in class.
But okay, now that on the part of the YouTube, you'll find that it's not every student who is well advantaged when it comes to the finances. We all know that YouTube, it requires what? Data, and data requires what? Money, you understand? So I feel like another solution that we can use when it comes to, what do you call this? Solutions to with the YouTube or whatsoever, I think we can utilize AI. You understand? Because AI, I don't think it requires a lot of data. You understand? It's a matter of putting whatever is it that a student is struggling with on the AI, and then the AI will explain step by step without having to go through the YouTube. Even though yes, YouTube is very much advantageous, but the disadvantage of it is that it's not every student who has money to buy for that. So I believe that the use of artificial intelligence can also have an impact on this. You understand? And it will be perfect because it will give a personal feedback to each and individual student based on how they understand. You understand? And it will be able to be there 24 hours. You understand? So yeah.
I also think using continuous assessment can also help. Like if teachers assess learners regularly using like mathematical games, teaching quizzes, classwork, and oral questions as well. And they also help to identify those that are struggling, and so that you can give extra support before exams.
I mean, that's true, because the time I was doing my practicals, I used to teach the grade 10s, you see. So the time I was teaching them, in order for me to actually know that these people, they understood the concept that I taught them, I made it a thing that every Friday I create like a class test for them to see how far have they learned and to see whether they understood or were they able to grasp the information that I was giving them throughout the week. And then when I did that, I found that as much as they said that they understand the concept that I taught, they said that verbally. When it comes for them to putting them into, yeah, exactly, they didn't understand them. Majority of them, they failed to do that. So my thing is, had I didn't do those class tests, how was I gonna know whether the students did understand or not? You understand? So it gave me a clue as to when focus on this, like make sure that the students, they don't go to the next topic without understanding that. It gave me, yes, exactly, a setback is to go back to this and make sure that the students understand this perfectly. Yeah, so that one also helps.
I think another solution is that teachers should implement afternoon classes and weekend classes. As we all know that mathematics is a subject that needs a lot. This study is important because it tackles the issue of grade 10 learners struggling to comprehend algebraic expressions and equations in classrooms.
This study, according to me, is very important because it focuses on comprehension rather than memorization, meaning that learners will be able to perform better if they have conceptual understanding. It promotes this conceptual understanding, this study, because it improves the understanding that the learners need to have for algebraic expression.
Well, another thing is that the significance of this is that it supports teacher development. How does it do that? The research, it provides practical strategies for teachers, like we said, to make mathematics more interactive and learner-centered in a way that we maybe they may introduce the likes of the games like you mentioned, or something that is hands-on, something that is practical, something that it will allow the teachers, the learners to do what? To interact.
It is also important because it can inform the curriculum developers on effective approaches to teaching algebra and promoting deeper understanding. So,
Now I think it is effective because it enhances mathematics education by promoting collaborative and inquiry-based learning. The research contributes to creating active learning environment where students see algebra as relevant and meaningful.
Well, that is significant to everything. So yeah, I feel like this one's on their own. They can make our research to be more fruitful actually and productive. So now that we are done with it, and we should consider the ethics. What are the ethical points that we can add on this research?
One ethical point that we can include is to seek parental consent. Meaning that parents need to be informed when this research is going to
take place.
Yes, so it's one of the ethical considerations we can include.
And the biasm within like the teachers and the learners.
Okay, so I think we should go to conclusion. Or is there anyone who wants to add
on something?
Ethical?
Well, for me, I feel like the ethics. I feel like she said, the parental approval is one thing that's of paramount importance. Yeah, the parents should be alert that their children are going to be part of a certain research, of which would be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
You see. So yeah.
Okay. So
in conclusion to everything that we have discussed.
Okay, to summarize our discussion, we all agree that grade 10 learners struggle with algebraic expression, right?
Yes, we do.
And equation because of weak foundational knowledge, language barriers, over-reliance on memorizations. Now, the effects include low test performance and loses interest
and disengagement
in classes. So,
yeah, well, that is so true. And we also agree that the best solutions includes like real life examples. We understand, relating some real life examples to the classroom environment, and collaborating learning and conceptual teaching and continuous assessment to assess, to check as to whether the learners genuinely understand. Because some learners, they tend to say that they do understand and they do not understand. So I feel like the assessment, you go test, you go quizzes, you go class test, it can be formal or informal assessments, you know, so that it can prepare them to know that these people, they do understand or they don't.